Hello, happy Thursday. We are live and we have an incredible guest. Everywhere we go, people ask us for communication solutions, and we just don't know what to tell them because that is not our forte.
Not usually, no. Talking, sure. We can walk over to your place 100 miles away and deliver a message. But
as we did at Newmarket, Sharon, last night. So thank you to the Newmarket group who had us out talking about Bill C-63. The weather was crappy, but the conversations were awesome.
Amazing. Yeah. So back to today's show, though, we've had a prepper show. We've done, be prepared. You don't know what's coming down the pipe, but a few things are very important to focus on. And communications is probably one of those most important things. As a communications guy, I've been racking my brain, like, how do we solve communications when the internet goes down? And we have a guy that is going to help us out with that. He's going to answer all our questions, and it'll probably be the show will be under his control. Frank is a firecracker, and he has no end of knowledge, and we're really excited to have him on the show. He set us up with several of these radios that you see in the background, and several of our friends as well. And anyway, enough of that. We'll bring Frank on, and he can explain it. Frank Papineau, welcome to the show.
Hey guys, thanks for having me.
Good to see you, my friend. Good to see you.
Are you guys getting snow your end of the woods?
Hit and miss. Yesterday it was on and off all day. Today it's been pretty quiet. So
yeah, it's been good today.
Yeah, well, it's been strange. I'm in Kingston right now working, and it snowed part of the day, and then the other part of the day I felt like I was in a beautiful spring day. So I'm not sure what we're going to call it, but we're calling it abnormal. That's for sure.
It's up and down. It's t-shirt in the morning and craziness at night. We drove through a big blizzard yesterday all the way over to Newmarket, and it's been nuts. So
it has been.
So we're excited to have you on the show. We've been talking about this, I think, for almost
a year.
Yeah, just having you on the show, and it just hasn't worked out. And so finally we've got somebody who knows what they're talking about with communications on. So we're glad you came.
Well, me too. And the thing about, I think you were right off the start of the show when you talked about the importance of communications, because if you think about anything, you can start a fire with cook your food on some lumber outside. You can put a tent over yourself, but if you can't talk to people, you're not going to know what's going on. You'll know what's going on around the corner, but that's it. And I think under the circumstances of what we might be involved in, communications will be very important. And growing up as a kid, I played with CB radios. It was a huge fun thing. And here we are, 45, 50 years later. And, this old analog technology may be the last bastion of our ability to talk, when satellites and telephone systems, which, we don't really use much of it, but, anything that revolves around having to use a digital technology, if that goes down, how are we going to be able to talk? And this old analog technology is great. It has a whole bunch of abilities now. Specifically, radios are designed better. There's communications systems that do a lot more for distance. So I think where we're at now is that the old analog system is going to be our friend when this stuff goes down.
Mm-hmm. Well, there's certainly rumors and more rumors of blackouts and digital ID getting you off the internet and all sorts of things. And who knows what's going to happen, if any of it's going to happen. But the peace of mind that you can talk to your loved ones and keep up on information, and you're not isolated if something goes down. That to me is one of the most important things outside of food.
Well, if right now, if people go to the bathroom, they got their cell phone with them. We used to read National Geographic in the toilet. Now we got our cell phone. We've got our knees pinched off with our elbows falling asleep because we're Googling and looking at stuff. So people can't do anything without a cell phone. So could you imagine the first day they'd get along with everybody? The second day they'd wonder why they're getting along with everybody. The third day they'd be killing everybody.
Yeah, that's right.
So, and that's just a 3-day power outage. That's not a 3-month power outage. So the thing about analog technology is it's been around forever, right? It's next to smoke signals. Analog technology was used for a long time during the wars and so on. according to NASA, we talk to people on the moon through analog technology, but I digress.
That is a whole other show, my friend.
My cell phone doesn't work in the basement, though. This is all I'm saying. Like, if I could just get my cell phone to work in the basement. So the thing about analog technology is that it's an old proven technology. You can run it off of a battery. You can create a network of locals, and I found that's what's happened is a whole group of people have bought radios that they've created a network. Don't expect that you're going to be talking on a daily basis 200 miles, because during an Armageddon, if we want to call it that, 200 miles isn't going to be an important factor in your existence.
Right.
Yeah.
10 miles will be 200 miles when you can't drive, when you can't walk, or you can't ride a horse because you don't have, or bicycle. It'll be important. So the whole concept behind analog is that, especially simple analog, is that everybody can run it. It's a simple machine to run. You can get close proximity, 10, 15, 20 miles. My radios and setups can work 50 miles. I can talk that all the time. But if you took something average, you could talk 20 miles, and that would be a good jumping off point between your network. So if you had people within an area and you had radios within 20 miles, you'd all be able to talk to each other. And that's the nice thing about analog. And it's free. It costs nothing but what you purchase.
That's the best part. Talking to someone who's pretty frugal, that's the best part.
Yeah, well, so a lot of people have in their garage, they have these old radios, right? These old CB radios that were back in the 70s, 80s, super popular. They're very simple to operate. But if you fast forward to the 21st century, those radios are way better now. They have more technology. They're more stable. But the premise is the same. They talk through an analog signal.
Mm-hmm.
It's never changed. So that's probably the savior if you're going to have a communication port that you're going to use. You'd want something analog and something simple. And the learning curve, depending, like you have a couple radios in the back, are a little different. But the point at the end of the day is they work. So if all the power goes down, all you would need is a battery, your radio, and your antenna. And you would be able to talk to people.
Yeah, I know when we go out, different people talk about Zoleo or satellite phones, but those all cost money. And my big concern is, well, the government owns all the satellites. So if things are going to go down, you're probably going down as well.
You're controlled by anything digital. Mm-hmm. You just look at it this way: pencil and a keyboard. That's the difference. This is a pencil. Mm-hmm. And a pencil works all the time. And when it gets a little dull, you just resharpen it. It works all the time.
True.
But your keyboard has its own mind of its own. Mm-hmm. And it also has other people minding its mind of its own.
This is true. Yeah, we monitor that all the time back at our house. So
the point about having a simple analog technology, like the ham radio people, which is 10 meter, 2 meters, so on. This is something you need a license for, and we'll talk about that. You'll ask me some questions, and I'll tell you what I know about that.
Okay.
But anything that's analog is simple. It's always been simple, and I can tell you that analog technology can talk from Ottawa to England. Analog technology can talk from Ottawa to California. And I'm not talking through repeater systems. I'm talking through a system called skip, where the signal goes into the ionosphere, bends itself, and talks farther away. It comes through the solar flares and so on. It's only a part of a day that a person can achieve that, but that's accessible. I listen to Americans all the time from my office.
Right.
They're on all the time. I get to listen to news, what's going on. We had one of your associates contact me, and they came to my house, and we were talking over to Scotland off of channel 37 on a CB radio through skip. So the point is that that's just a simple radio, that little antenna that you have that will show, and a power supply. And that's what we would need. That's what we would need when all of the digital technology has shut down.
Right.
Okay, we'll get into the different equipment a little bit later. So one of the questions we always get is, can't they just shut you down? If you're using radio, it's not secure, which we know, but we have solutions for that. But the other thing is they can easily triangulate your signal and come get you. And that's the biggest concern for a lot of people.
Very true. We used to call it fox hunting. You can triangulate, but they're going to triangulate everybody. And I think there's a balancing act of intelligence.
Okay.
There is the in the matrix intelligence, and there's the outside the matrix intelligence.
Okay.
The one that's inside revolves around licensing and so on and so forth. But during a case of uncontrollable circumstances, nobody's coming to do that.
Right.
Because
because they won't have any technology to do it.
I can see them not even having the manpower to drive around in those trucks either.
100%. And the thing about that is that it's funny. When I listen to the conversations like this is the thing I get. We lived through an ice storm in Eastern Ontario, and I'm just going to give you a story to kind of bring this together. We lived in an ice storm where after day 2, people didn't know what they're doing. Mm-hmm. After day 3, they had completely no idea what they were doing. After day 4, people were moving out of their houses. They had no abilities to talk. The telephone systems were going down. So if we get to that point, none of that stuff will matter.
Right.
None of it will matter. So yes, they can triangulate you, but if 10,000 people all have no power, have fun considering that's the most important element of your day to the powers that be. Because that won't be their problem. It will be the least of their problems that they would have. So the answer to your question is yes, people can triangulate you 100%. Some radios have some technologies that you can kind of deviate from that. Some radios can split frequencies. There's a lot more to it than just one dimensional. But the point is that during a time that's outside the matrix, none of that will matter. It'll matter if you have the ability to communicate or not. Is what will matter, right?
Right, because we're going to want to know what everybody else is doing or what everybody else is seeing or reporting on.
Do you notice 100%? Do you notice that there's no more community newspapers?
Yes.
There's a reason. There's a reason for that. There's a reason for that. Do you know that TikTok everybody wants TikTok gone? That's government. There's a reason for that. Anything that creates a community, they want to disband the community topic.
Right.
And that's evident by what's going on. So if a whole bunch of people had CB radios, they can triangulate who they want. They can't get everybody.
Right.
But I think it's beyond that. I don't think it's a scare tactic. I think it becomes this. At the time of need, nobody's going to care to stop you.
Right.
Okay. And that's only if you're broadcasting anyway, isn't it? If you're receiving, they can't catch you.
So, well, they can't. You're right. And the thing is that if you're operating a CB radio, you can broadcast and listen all you want. If you own a 10-meter radio like the Anytone, you can listen to ham all day long while you're within the matrix.
Right.
And the ham community is a robust community of very knowledgeable individuals. And while they're in the matrix, you should absolutely respect who they are, appreciate who they are. They have tons of knowledge. But on the same side of the discussion, if you have a catastrophic event where all you have to be able to talk to is on that, if you're worried about the licensing aspect, then you may as well not ever own one, because at that point in time, nobody's going to care. It's such a weird balance between, are you afraid or are you somebody who has a brain that you can use? Because it comes down to, you need to protect yourself and protect your family and your ability. And when everything else is in a handbasket, I don't think you need to call up and say, hi, can I talk on this or am I going to get in trouble?
I think people would be grateful to hear another voice on the end just to find out what's going on at the other end.
So here's the proof that statement's right. They're trying to stop us from being able to do that
Right.
already in the digital realm.
Right. Well, yeah, Bill C-63, the online harms bill, they're trying to take everybody down and censor content. You're absolutely right. C-11, C-18, all doing the same thing. It's all about censorship.
What it is they're taking your community newspaper away.
Right. Right.
Exactly right. And they going back to TikTok, the ironic part is Facebook is much more intrusive than TikTok. Yet we're going to let that stand. So,
well, yeah,
That
but
being said, we did
by
get
the entity that wants it to stand.
Yeah.
exactly.
Yeah. I was going to say, that being said, we did get taken down yesterday on TikTok. We haven't been on TikTok very long, a couple of weeks, and they took our post down yesterday for going against community guidelines. But all we were talking about was, hey, we're going to be in Newmarket talking about Bill C-63. And they took us down.
The irony is if you're blind, be careful of the pole you run into.
Right.
Correct.
That's all you know. And I'm not this conspiracy theorist. It's funny. I live my life every day like I always did. I struggle. I try to survive and stuff. But I want to be prepared that I have the best chance of getting through something. And I'm not talking about an Armageddon where the world collapses, but we have a grid, electronic grid that can't keep our air conditioners running in August.
Yeah.
So, and people are going, well, if you have this radio, pardon me, and you don't have any electricity, well, no, you run it off a really good lithium-ion battery, and with a solar charger, you need, I don't know, 5 amps maybe. It runs. You're not going to be on it all day going, oh, I got to talk to the world.
Right.
You're good. Hopefully, you're trying to take care of your home and your family, but if there's news to be gotten, you'll be able to hear the news. And there will be people out there who have the technology to talk on it that people can't hear. But during a catastrophic event, people will be talking on it. They're not going to care.
Right.
They're going, but I always want to give the caveat about ham people. They must be respected. It's a licensed endeavor. These people really are talented, smart. They know what they're doing, and we shouldn't ever be playing in there while we're fine. But they would be very, I would say that they would be very receptive in the time of need for you to be able to communicate with them, because they're going to be there to try to communicate and help people. But it's a fine balance between 11 meter CB radios and ham radios. People should respect that. You can listen on ham all day, anytime you want. And I always want to say that because it's not fair to the ham people. Okay, they get a bad rap when it comes to this, and they're very important people when it comes to analog communications from the old days.
Okay, well, we keep talking about 10 meter, 11 meter. Explain what that is. Let's just start with the basics there.
So CB radios run on the 11 meter band, okay? And ham radios run from, and I'm not a perfect ham guy, but 70 centimeters, I believe, to like, I don't know, 160 megahertz. It's a big wide band in this envelope, and we are allowed as free people to talk right here.
Okay.
Okay, the free people can talk right here. 40 channels, so I think it's 26,950 to 47,400 megahertz. Yeah. We're allowed to talk in there.
Okay.
No repercussions. Completely analog. You don't need repeaters. That's our realm, and that's the realm that we should consider to be able to communicate. Now, the radios you have behind you, they're ham radios. The 66, the 666, the quad 6, and quad 5. They're 10 meter, but they can be utilized as 11 meter radios also. I don't tell people that they should do that, but they can do that. They're very robust. If you Google those, the reviews are spectacular.
Yeah.
The ham course is available to people, and if you so decide to take it, it'll allow you to. If you're on ham, you can use repeaters. You can use different power levels. So that becomes somebody who wants to be really serious. Now, it doesn't mean you can't listen,
right?
But for people who want to have a communications device that's legal within the matrix, and I love using that word because I think it just fits so well. If you see digital portal behind me, it's just because I'm going to be leaving the screen. It's all good. So the so no, I know I find it funny too because I'm living in it. So that those radios, again, I say they do both. There's lots of brands on the market. They're very, very good radios. As I say, lots of reviews. If you have one, just make sure that you respect the ham people and don't talk on channel on the 10 megahertz.
Right.
Okay.
So the 11 megahertz, that's free. Anybody and everybody can be on that. That's your CB channel.
Yes.
Approximately 40 different channels you can talk on, and you can talk pretty far and wide on that.
Well, you definitely can create a community of radios.
Okay.
You know, a community radio. I remember growing up that we lived where we lived. I wanted to talk to a friend of mine 3 concessions over. It was long distance. 3 concessions. 3 concessions.
That's not very far.
3 miles, you got a bill for 28 cents to talk to the guy over on the other line. Yeah.
Right.
And we got So these radios will allow you to do that. Now, these two, if I'm not mistaken, my knowledge of these two is these two both operate in 10, 11 meters.
Yeah.
And you know, I don't suggest you change anything with them, but they do that. But as I say, it always is about the 10 meter. 11 meter, you can talk all day. I think they have more than 40 channels too. I think the 10 meter has like 400 channels.
Wow.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, it has 400. And I also believe in 11 meter, they do that as well. I'd have to check.
Right.
There was something else I want to mention about the radios. There's many brands on the market, but the 2 that you chose there are very, very well reviewed. A lot of preppers in America are using those radios.
Right. Yeah, we started messing around with them. We're learning. We set up the little antenna, and we're going to be talking about these as well. So we set that up, and so we started our forte into radios today.
Yes.
We've had them for quite a while, but we're going to start going back and forth. We've got one in the van and one in the house, and so we're going to be starting our training on those right now. So
Yeah.
Well, that is important. That is really important.
Right.
People don't wait till you need them
To learn how to use them.
no.
Yeah, that's the wrong time to be. I fundamentally think next to food and shelter, the communication is the next important thing. I think it's the number 3. I think it's number 3. Sometimes it might be number 1, but you know, you can live without talking to people for a while, but eventually you'll need information.
Right.
You will. Yeah.
Right.
You can't get out of your situation without good communication. Oh,
Yeah.
hey, soundbite for you. You can take it with you.
There you go.
So where learning is, you know, you said look it up on YouTube. I went to YouTube today. There's not a lot. I looked up any tones, and maybe I was too specific. The ham radio course, what does that cover? And then if you just want to get into the CB stuff, where do you learn about, you know, how you can do skip and all the things you're talking about?
Listening is huge.
Okay.
Listening is huge because, you know, back in the 70s, 80s, everybody was on them. This is a dead community. Okay, it's dead, right? It's virtually analog technology. You ask it's like the record player. You ask a 20-year-old, what?
Yeah.
It's so gone, but it's so gone that but it's not forgotten by people my age. We remembered using it because it's simple. It's an antenna plugged into power, and it works.
Right.
And a lot of it will be learned by trial and error. There's a lot of buttons on those 2 anytones. A lot of that stuff you don't need, but the capacity of what the radio does is super important. What that radio can do, and as you educate yourself more, you'll know more what it can do. But if you just plug that in and have your antenna, it works automatically. It already starts to work, and they all have resets, so you can't make a mistake. You can't have a problem from making the mistake. You just reset the radio. There's some areas that you want to take care of that you don't have catastrophic problems, like not hooking up the antenna and using it and so on. But it's pretty simple. Talking about the ham question, the ham course, the first grade system of the course It takes a little effort, but there's, and I wouldn't suggest you study it on your own. There's a couple of people out in Halifax that offer a really good online course 2 times a week.
Okay.
And I'll supply you with that so you can give that to your viewers.
Okay.
It's a simple course, a couple times a week for maybe 4 hours. And it's not just about 10 and 11 meter. It's about the concept of RF radios and analog radios. And it'll give you an understanding. Once you get your ham license, you can run the ham radio too. But if you so desire to know more, that's a good place. It's $60. The course is $60 online. It's not even expensive. Do you need to take that course to run the radio? No, you just need to play with it.
Right. So YouTube is where you suggest most people go to play with them, or?
Well, there's a lot of technicians out there that have explain how the actual radio works. A lot of buttons are nothing you'd ever use, right? Unless you're at the high end of a ham operator, but for the general usage, you put it on the channel, you adjust the squelch, you adjust the volume, you change a channel, and you talk on it. It's the very starting point is super simple. I demonstrated that to one of your colleagues that came to my house the other day, and they were just, they were unsure of what to do. But once we sat them down in 10 minutes, and we talked to Scotland
That's amazing.
From my living room on that antenna you have in the middle. Yeah, we did. We talked to Scott. They look on people's face. It's really interesting. Every time I help someone set something up, the look on their face is amazing. I don't think they understand how well it works.
No. So let's talk about this. Now, you make this, correct? You calibrate it anyway.
Yes. Yeah. That's me. That's a World War I design by the Germans. It's a third wave antenna. You can use it in your house. What happens is you attach another piece of PVC underneath it, and then I use a top of a fence, chain link fence as my other pole.
Yeah.
I stick that in between my 2 stairwells, and off we go. Nobody knows I have an antenna.
Right.
It's got the coax.
Right.
It's pretty small. And the thing that's beautiful about the survival antenna is if you leave, you can take it with you.
Yeah, it's little, because I know when I first met you, you were talking about this antenna, and you actually had it in a flower pot outside the window. And I think we were up near Ottawa, and you were talking to your mom, I think, who was in Kingston or somewhere 2 hours away.
Yeah, it was farther away. Yeah, we were having a little bit of a skip conversation. It was great. Yeah.
And all of us walked past this and didn't even notice it.
In a flower pot.
Yeah, it was amazing. I'm like, I need to get me one of those. But then because of shipping distribution interruptions at the time, you weren't able to get the parts to make it. So we ended up getting this antenna, the K40.
Oh yeah, dynamite antenna.
Yeah, it's massive though, and I've got a mount on my roof of my car that we put it in. But obviously, if you want to park in a underground parking, this is not ideal.
You can just turn it off. It's got a quarter turn to take it off when you leave the mag mount on. And
yeah, it was super easy to pull it off, actually.
Yeah. I have talked to California from Ottawa on that antenna in my car.
On this one?
Yeah, during skip. Yeah, absolutely.
Wow.
Yeah.
Now, is skip for ham or is skip for CB, or is it for both?
It works on both. Yeah. Oh yeah. Yeah.
So is that another thing you have to buy? Is a skip, or?
So skip is a phenomena.
Okay.
What happens during solar flares is the signal goes into the ionosphere about 40 miles and it curves. Okay. So here's Ottawa, here's Florida. It doesn't go this way. It goes this way.
Okay. Oh, okay.
Oh.
Right. And different solar flares gives you different skips. So sometimes I'll hear Florida, Mexico really well, and then all of a sudden I hear England.
Oh, gotcha.
And here's the thing is that if I can hear them, they can hear me.
Right.
That's how because sometimes you'll hear people in the distance. Other times you'll hear them like they're in your living room. You'll be going, that guy's in my living room, like he's so loud. And it's when you first do it, it's astonishing. You go like that's 2,000 miles away, and that guy's. but you can't talk 60 miles away in your own place.
Right. Okay.
Mhm.
Okay. And the thing too to understand about skip is there's different kind of antennas. That's a survival antenna that's movable, takeable. You can have yourself a Max 2000 optimizer that's 24 feet tall, and that baby will broadcast you out into a bigger area. But if you're living in Ottawa, in downtown Ottawa or downtown Kingston, you're not going to have that.
Right.
If you live in the country, then I would suggest you own something like that. But if you're in an apartment building in Kingston, that survival antenna is just dynamite.
This one.
Well, it sits on your balcony. Nobody even knows you have it.
Exactly. Now, does this have to be installed outside, or can you install it in your house? Or
In Scotland, from my living room.
that's amazing.
I had it set up in the stairwell at my place, in between on a 10-foot metal rail. And Mike, that was there. He just looked at me. I don't think he believed it until he heard the accent, and he heard the guy, and he just said, "That guy's in Scotland." I go, "Yeah, he's in Scotland talking to us." Yeah. Skip. Wow. When I was a kid, when I was a young boy, it was amazing. It was, and here I am 40 some years later, amazed by it still. Like, holy cow, this stupid RF analog signal talks all that way. It's spectacular. And here's the thing. I listen to a lot of preppers in America on what's going on in America via Skip. Mm-hmm. So even if you're just listening, you can hear people talking about different things, which is, again, the benefit of, even if you're afraid to use it, the benefit of listening to it has value.
So the other thing is, how do you find other people? Like, you can scan channels all day long and not hear anything. Like, how do you find where people are talking?
The problem is that very few people have this analog technology anymore. This is the fundamental problem. When communication goes down, the only people going to be talking to each other are smoke signals, long tin cans with string, and people with analog radios.
Right.
Okay. I'm just writing down to buy some tin cans and string.
Yeah. Wasn't that a cool thing? Do you remember doing that?
Oh, yeah. Doing that. And it worked.
And it worked. The only problem, Kingston to Belleville, is a long string.
That's right.
Exactly.
It's called fiber optics, and it won't be there.
So is it hit and miss then, or are there set channels where there's somebody always talking?
It depends on your community. Like where I live, there's a group of maybe 15 guys, and they're always on at 7:00 at night on channel 23.
Okay.
You set your community up. The problem is that if you went down to the States, you'd hear people on those radios all the time.
Right.
Every prepper, they have all kinds of radios, preppers, 2 meter, they have walkie-talkie, but they all have 11 meter radios. All of them.
Yeah, I started today when we set up. The first people talking I heard all had this pretty distinctive Southern accents, so I was getting something from down in the South.
And that's Skip.
Wow.
Yeah, so that was working.
Oh yeah. Oh, and if you can hear them, they can hear you. And the thing is, it fades away at night. It usually happens mostly during the day. I have had Skip conversations at night. It all runs by the sun, believe it or not. It all runs by the sun. Sun flares, sun sparks.
Well, I noticed that because I was getting some pretty good chatter today, and then Jody came later on, and I started going through the nothing. Yeah. She didn't hear a thing, so she thinks I'm nuts. But I was probably just hearing stuff.
Well, I was going to say that's the best part of anything is when people think you're nuts.
Right?
It's a daily occurrence, Frank.
Yeah. You're on the right track when people look at you and go, "You're nuts."
That's right. Yeah. So okay, so that's that part of it, and you can go and get ham courses. And so a ham license, is that something that people would want to get?
I'll tell you my experience is that people come to me and go, "I have this radio, I don't know how it works," and then they expect me to make it work.
Right.
The problem is helping them is the mistake. It's actually the mistake.
Okay.
The general consensus of doing something like this is, here's the radio, I've set it up that when you turn it on, you can change channel 1 through 40. The squelch works, the power works, the volume works, the microphone works. The antenna is connected to the radio, because without the antenna connected to the radio, if you key up the mic, you could affect the radio.
Right.
The antenna's SWR is adjusted properly. It works. Now it's your job to educate yourself on why it works.
Right. Okay.
And how you set it up. And the reason that it's a mistake to help them is because there will be nobody there, contrary to popular belief, to help you when things are bad.
Yeah,
this is a fallacy of humans. Your community will come together once it's stabilized. People aren't stabilized until they're stabilized.
Right.
So if you have this battery, and you have your antenna, you have your radio, and you don't know how to connect that, what a mistake you made.
Mm-hmm.
We're in trouble.
Well, we're almost guilty of that, because it's been sitting in a box since we bought it. Now, Jody's in the van has been active. Yeah, but we've always said, we'll just get to it. And today I thought, well, I got to know something before I talk to you. And so I did. I spent a couple hours setting it up and making sure that it was working. And I put the antenna up in our kitchen, and I started messing with it, and I didn't know anything. I wasn't getting anything. So I hopped on YouTube and I found something that pointed me in the right direction. I got on the right channel. Next thing you know, I started hearing stuff right away.
Yeah. And you set the survival antenna up as per with the metal pipe and the adapter. You did it that way?
More or less. Yeah. It's
does connecting it to our double wall oven count?
That helps. But the SWR, which is the measuring gauge of the proper power leaving the radio, must stay. Like if it says SWR beeping, that's not good. It's got to stay. It's got to stay within the numbers. But I would suggest with the survival antenna, you put the extra plastic on with the screw through it. Then you put a metal mass, and then you put it in the house, and it'll be even better than what you thought it was today.
Okay. Yeah, I will do that. We actually have some.
You'll be able to talk to Jody in the van.
There you go. Do I want that?
Yes, you do. Yes,
you do. You will when Chris says, I'm not going to be at home anymore because the power's out and I'm leaving for the bush or something.
True enough.
Don't listen to her. I'm the wind beneath her wings.
Yes. She's the power that runs your battery.
That's right.
Exactly.
That's right.
Now, so there's more to it than just buying, say, in our case, the Anytone and the antenna. We also need, you mentioned like a power pack or a power supply or batteries. So what else do they need besides just the radio and the antenna?
So here's the elements. You can move that radio in and out of your car to your house.
Yeah.
You'll plug it into your 12 volt in your vehicle. You need either a 12 volt supply, either a lithium ion battery, which I would suggest if you're going to build something for when you'll need it. I would have a lithium ion battery because they hold a nice long charge. I'd have a small solar charger that would charge that battery.
Yeah.
And then I would have my radio and my antenna. And then I'd also have a power supply that runs off of the 110.
Okay. Because something to plug into the wall and then something.
Right. Because the two things is when you have power, you don't necessarily need to use the battery. Right. But if you have no power, you need a battery to run that.
And where would somebody get the lithium ion battery solar pack?
So Amazon has some pretty cool little deals there for a small lithium ion battery, 20 amp hours or something. You'll have to look. There's some different ones. They have a small solar panel that can charge it. And we're talking about the extreme, right? This is really over here. Like I basically would think during Armageddon that every solar powered sign outside that's around the city would be gone.
People are going to snatch them up for sure.
Well, yeah. Because I think we live in two different places. We live in the 2 days is okay. Well, just plug it. I'll plug my battery in and talk to people. But I think our lives. I don't think anybody has a true understanding of what would happen if you had no power for a week. I don't think anybody has that understanding.
No, I don't either. But
Well, we got a glimpse of it. Was it a couple of years ago when we had a nice storm here, just in this area? I think it was about 6-7 years ago. We had an ice storm, and there was a lot of people that were out of power for 2 to 3 weeks.
Oh yeah.
I know my in-laws at the time. They actually had a tree come down across their driveway, so they couldn't even get out of their home, and they didn't have cell phones or anything like that. They had no power, no heat for over 2.5 weeks.
Yeah.
And we didn't know that they were in trouble. We somehow miraculously, this house only went down for a couple hours and we were back up and running. People at the bottom of our street, they were out for 3 weeks. And then the in-laws who lived just a couple of minutes away, they were out for 2.5 weeks. And we had no idea that they had no issue because they had no way to communicate, and they couldn't get out of their house, literally. And the snow had piled up and they couldn't open their door, and the tree across their driveway. So they couldn't even get out of their driveway if they wanted to. It was a crazy situation. And we had people calling saying, like, do you guys have, do you have food? Do you have whatever? And different people who got in their cars and came to us. And my dad, he was out of power for 2 weeks as well. Now, luckily, he had a wood stove and stuff, so he just cooked on his wood stove and he had heat and he was fine. But so many other people were just devastated.
Now multiply that by everybody.
Right.
But multiply that phenomena by everybody.
Right. People are going to freak out. What does it say? What do they say? 5 meals? 5 meals before it's anarchy?
So I'm a farm boy. So when I was growing up, we had no heat sometimes. Sometimes we had 5 feet of snow in the driveway with no heat and no power.
Right.
And we were this hardy group of farm people. I don't believe that people who live in city dwellings will be able to understand what it will take to even get out of that mess. So I would suggest if anybody is interested in buying a communication system, unless you're going to take that seriously, don't buy that. Because it'll be one less thing you'll have to carry with you when you have nothing.
Right.
Yeah. We're strategizing which car to put it in, and
yeah. Well, that's why you got that survival antenna, because that survival antenna works. You can take the radio, the survival antenna, and a battery, and it'll be functional.
Yeah,
exactly.
It'll be functional 25 minutes, or whatever, 12 hours a day. But that's not what you need that for. You need that for strategic communication and so on. And that's a whole. I always believe this whole problem that we're trying to look through is 1 through 10 phenomena. 1 through 4 we can control. After that, good luck.
Right.
Because there'll be so many people in the same problems we're having, right?
Yeah.
Right.
So if you're gonna have something, put that together, store it in a garbage can, a metal garbage can, and there's a reason for the metal garbage can. Do you know what the metal garbage can reason is?
No, but I was going to ask.
Electronic pulse attacks.
Oh, right. Yeah.
Oh.
Yes.
Does it stop that from happening, or?
Yes, it does.
Really?
Well, read up. I would suggest the viewers go read up on that. Read about that.
Okay. Now, different people are talking, walkie-talkies, but I know when I've tried walkie-talkies in the past, if you get a hill or something, you're done. Once you get any sort of obstruction or higher elevation, you're done.
It's an antenna issue.
Yeah.
Because it's point to point, but you don't have enough antenna to get point to point. If one climbed in a tree, if you ever remember the old TV stations, they always had it up on a ski hill, the tower. And it sent the VHF, UHF signal over the city where all the other antennas were there, right?
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay. Similar kind of philosophy. So walkie-talkies in your community, if you lived in a condo area they'll work. Everybody will be able to talk to each other. So it's a good thing.
Right.
But you're not talking 2 miles down the road. That's a fallacy. It has like 1 watt in those radios, small little tiny rubber ducky antennas. The Bofang 2 meter radios, they don't have a repeater system, which will be controlled by power.
Yes.
will be controlled again by power. If there's no power, they don't work. That's the beauty of the old CB radio. Nice big antenna, a little bit of power, and they talk a nice distance.
Now, these CB radios, are they the same ones that you could talk to, say, truckers on? Is it the same sort of concept?
Yes, it's 11 meter. It's 11 meter. Channel 1 is 26,950, and channel 40 is 27,400 megahertz. And that is the 40 channel band of the 11 meter band that you were allowed to use.
Right.
Okay. So we'd be able to talk to truckers then on the highway.
Well, if they have any fuel to drive.
So these switch between ham and CB, but you don't recommend doing that as per you say. So these do both basically.
Yes.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
Now, I know some people have been talking about, I think it's called a Uhura. Have you ever heard of the Uhura?
I haven't.
Uhura?
Uhuru.
Oh, Uhura?
From like Star Trek.
Oh, is it something that's going to beam us to someone else's house to set their radio up?
I would hope so.
Yeah.
Uhuru. Yeah.
Uhuru. And a Meshtastic.
Is it digital?
I'm not 100% sure. Now, I did get and I should have brought it down with me so that I could have talked to it better. But I did pull a handout. I was at a meeting in Toronto and a gentleman was talking about it and he had handouts on it. And he said it was like CB type communications.
It's a mesh network, but it doesn't use Bluetooth or anything. It's an analog mesh network is what they're creating. So
it's an analog mesh network. And how is the signal being propagated? Do you know?
That we don't know. Like mesh networks with Bluetooth, I understand, but these ones, I don't know what they're.
Yeah, and the machine was just a little handheld. It looked like a CB radio from what I saw.
Well, it might be a glorified walkie-talkie that it has analog capabilities, but it doesn't have distance. And I don't care which one you have. If you have a CB radio or a handheld radio in close proximity of your pod or your community,
right?
Yeah, they would work. A centralized base station with a good antenna could talk out to your community. I think people should start setting up communities of their radios.
Yeah,
I think that's a good start to being able to have something available that can talk, 10, 15, 20 kilometers, whatever. But a good solid 10 square kilometers and if you have somebody else at the end of the 10 kilometers, now you've got 20 kilometers of communication. And if you have somebody at the other end, you have 30, through the tethering of each other. So it's just a network you can create. Now, I don't know what these other machines, I'm going to look them up, but I think it's the same philosophy.
Okay.
Yeah. So probably just a shorter range, more people signing on community, which is what it sounds like.
Downtown Toronto.
Yes.
It would be great for that way, although that's not where you want to be in an Armageddon situation. Anyway,
no, I don't want to be in the city in an Armageddon
right.
situation.
Do you know of communities where people are, is there somewhere where you can go to hook into a community that you know of, or?
Well, Cornwall has a community now. Belleville Trenton corridor has some people there that there's 50 or 60 people there now. There's 50 or 60 out in Cornwall. I believe in another part of Eastern Ontario, south of Rockland has 35 or 40 people.
Wow.
I don't believe that anybody believes that communication will be taken down. And I think I think that is a mistake because that's the first thing that they take, because here's the proof of that. All these bills that they're talking about is all to distinguish what you can and can't say.
Exactly right.
So it's really simple to see it there. And I'm not a conspiracy theorist. I love living. I love life. I love the outdoors. I love people. I love movies and a beer and all this stuff. But at the end of the day, I fear that if you thought about, maybe I should just have something in place for a short-term run. I'm not talking about pack your house full of food, because that's a real different choice. But if your cell phone doesn't work, and that's been proven with Rogers, Rogers went down.
Yeah.
And that happened just when we weren't releasing Russia's turbines, to Germany. Did you ever look that story up?
No, I haven't followed up on that story. No.
Well, there's one for you to go look at. Remember the turbines that were being repaired in Montreal through Germany for the Russians?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah. The day before Trudeau stopped that, the day after Trudeau stopped that, Rogers' money system went down and their cell phones.
Yeah, interesting. And that's not the first time. And they go down quite often very strategically.
Well, even 2 weeks ago, it was all across Canada, all communications, internet, banks were all down. And then I was talking to some people down in the States and it hit down there as well. So
it's digital. It's controlled by a button.
Right.
Yeah. And it's going to get worse. You know, Rogers is a monopoly. People don't know this, but they're also setting up a bank. So open banking is going to be done through your phones, and people they don't understand how much of their life is going to be controlled by one little device.
I think I'm okay with progression of life. I'm not okay when I see things that are being put in place that seem to be a roadblock for us. I like ingenuity. I love new things, but when someone says they're going to take something away from me because they don't like what I'm saying on it,
right?
I'm not sure that that's a healthy place to live.
Exactly.
No. So going back to your point, it's always, I mean, the first thing they do when they take over a country, when they evade, is they shut down their communications. That's the first thing they attack. Communications is more important on a community level than anything else. On an individual level, like you say, shelter first, then food, make sure you got water. But outside of that, if you don't have communications, info is more important than gold.
It's huge. Yeah. And that's been proven simply by all the community, as I said earlier, all the community papers being gone. You know, I remember they were everywhere where I lived. Every small village, community, they had a paper talking about Tommy was the greatest soccer player and Beth won the best cow milking contest and whatever. And it's all gone.
Yeah, it's true. It's a globalization push.
Yeah, even here we used to have 3, and Cobourg's not a huge city, 18, 19,000 people, but we had 3 newspapers when I was, a teenager and in my 20s. We had 3 newspapers, and I don't think we have a single one now. Everything's online. Everything's online.
They're all gone. You have good steelhead fishing in Cobourg, though.
Fishing is very good here. Golf. We have so many golf courses for such a tiny little community.
Right.
That's funny.
Yeah. So we've gone over a lot of the equipment. We've talked about the basics, the very basics, where you can go to get some training, communities in your area. I think, the importance of communication is not lost on most people who watch this show. So what's the best way to get set up? Like, are you available? Do you sell this stuff? I know you do to us, but you're very specialized. So do you do it on a grand scale, a general scale?
I just, the only thing is I have all the components to make the survival antenna, and I would be happy to make some of those for your clients. Absolutely. And the benefit to that antenna is they can use it inside their house, in their attic. And if they want,
a lot smaller than this guy that is massive. Now it's a 3-parter. So what you're seeing here is only one piece of it.
Yeah. It's a very, that whole design is after the world, as designed by the Germans in World War I. It's very, very, very efficient. And it's made for people who don't want anybody to see it, want to kind of just stay, in the shadows, that it's, I'm not really wanting everybody to know what I'm doing. And it works really well and simple to install. And as you say, that's not the whole antenna. It gets shipped like that because you can buy the piece of plastic and the pipe on your own. So we'd be happy to supply some people with those. And then if they get in touch with you, I can give them some locations on where to get the other equipment. Absolutely.
Perfect.
Okay.
Perfect. Yeah, and like Chris said, we set this up in our kitchen today, just had it leaning up against our double wall oven, and he was getting, southern states.
Oh, yeah.
So we didn't even have the extra, fence posts or anything like that on it, and we were getting
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
They are absolutely dynamite.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, amazing. So it's amazing that we get to talk to you about communications. We think it's super important, and this show has been long overdue.
Yes.
I think so. So Frank, I appreciate that, and we'll put your info up. We will try and find some links on where you can go to find communities and all that stuff.
No. We're going to put info@tfmreport.com.
Okay.
So you can contact us. Let us know what it is you're looking for, and we will reach out to Frank so that Frank doesn't get slammed.
Yeah.
Because he has a life.
Right. Definitely will help. Listen, I'm here to help people. And I don't mind. The information is free. So if they have some specific questions, if you fire them off to me, I'll be able to help them out. And
okay,
if they're interested in the antenna, we'll get them set up too. And you forward it off to me and I'll make sure I help them out. Okay.
Perfect.
Okay. I think last question is, it's open communications. So meaning like anyone can hear it, everyone can overhear whatever it is you have to say. So what about privacy concerns, or if you want to be cryptic, how do you do that? Or do you want to talk about that on air?
This is not a place to talk about that. But what
I thought, okay.
What I can tell you is that we all have imaginations.
Yes. Okay.
All right. We all have imaginations. So I would say that everybody would be able to devise a conversation based on let's meet here, or just what's going on in the neighborhood. Like what's going on, right? And I think I remember as a young guy that we talked about everything on it, and I still do. But I think if I need to talk to you about something specific, I'm going to say, hey, Chris, let's catch up at our normal place, and I got some other stuff to talk to you about.
Right. Yeah, that's and we also have some other ideas as well. So next time we see you at our local place, we'll let you know. Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, I mean, we have some ideas that we are absolutely not going to talk about on air for sure. Yeah. So
why does that make sense?
Yeah. Because why would you want to keep it secret and then tell everybody how you're going to
tell you a secret?
Yeah.
And then you stop talking.
Exactly.
That's right.
Great.
So, and then the other thing, just the last thing I wanted to talk about really quickly with these things is you don't have to stick to the channels. I started playing around with, you can split the frequencies, which means you don't have to do the preset channels either.
Yeah. One of the things about frequency counters is that they're specific for this channel you're on. So if you play with it when it's out, you should always leave it on channel until you understand how the frequencies are. So if you've played with the frequencies and haven't put them back on the channel you're on, you're going to have to reset your radio in order to bring it all back to the proper frequencies. But it's just a couple of button pushes. But understand that you're better to operate your radio on channel mode as opposed to frequency mode.
Right.
You're right. You can split frequencies.
Yeah. So it gives you a little more privacy if you're really into that. Yeah.
Oh yeah, there's all kinds of other things you can do, but as I said earlier, we want to respect the ham people, and we want to function inside the confines of our laws of today.
Exactly.
Yeah. Fair game. All right, Frank. Well, I don't know what else we can talk about. This is mostly because, like you say, get your equipment, start learning. And, for me, I just popped on YouTube and 2 minutes later, I was up and running. I couldn't get anything. Mm-hmm. I watched a short video and all of a sudden I had some direction and I started getting channels and chatter.
Yeah. Well, what I might be able to do is I might be able to make a YouTube channel or a YouTube post.
YouTube video?
Yeah, for everybody. Yeah, I thought I'd get that word out. Maybe I'll make a video up for everybody to help them out, to get them kind of just over the hump. And the do's and don'ts. Maybe that'll be a good one.
That'd be a great one.
Sure.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, now I have to go learn how to reset my radio, which is awesome.
It's probably number 9 in the menu or something. You'll see it.
Okay.
And call me if you can't. Call me if you can't.
Okay. No, we'll figure it out.
All good.
After that, yeah, no, I'm not going to ask for your advice now. I'm going to learn how to do that.
That's all right. It's all right. Well, thanks for having me, guys. I really appreciate the invitation, and hopefully I can come back again with as we move forward on more advanced stuff. I'll be back to help you.
That is great.
And possibly your other story that you told us about. I don't know if there's been more progress, but once there has been, I think your story would be really interesting for people to hear when you're ready to tell it. Yeah, it's a big one. Yeah, we got the news today, but I'm not ready to share it quite yet. But yeah, we'll come back and talk about that. This circumvents radios by 3 million. So, but we'll come back and talk to you another time.
Perfect.
Thank you so much, Frank.
Okay, Frank, thanks for coming by.
Yeah, absolutely. Great seeing you. Thanks, guys.
You too.
Great seeing you.
Bye-bye.
Bye now.
Bye-bye.
Amazing. So we are back on Monday.
So again, if you would like Frank to make you the survival antenna, reach out to us, info@tfmreport.com. Leave us your information. We will contact you to get more details from you.
Yep.
And if you've got any specific questions that you think of after the show, again, send it to us. We'll forward it on to Frank. We just don't want to inundate him with a bunch of stuff because he does have a life. He is extremely busy. And we know that this information is very important, and we know that there are certain people that don't want you to have this information or even know that this sort of stuff exists still today.
Right. Yes. I guess that's a military grade antenna.
Yes.
So Sunday, talking about Sunday.
Oh, Sunday.
Right.
We are hosting Sam. He will be here from 1 o'clock to approximately 7:30. We are hosting The Nature of Reality. It is free. Feel free to bring donations to give to Sam afterwards. If you think that the talk, which I think you are going to be blown away by. I know the first time I sat in on his seminar over 2 years ago, I was blown away. He opened my mind to the possibility of discernment and how to figure out truth from fiction. And some other things, and I don't want to give it away. So if you are in the Cobourg area on Sunday, please drop by, check out my Instagram, and I guess we'll post it on our TikTok, TFM Report on TikTok, or Jody Ledgerwood on Instagram. And I'm in Facebook jail right now, but I have posted it on Facebook as well a few days ago, but it will be again on Instagram. I believe Chris may have posted it on his Twitter, Chris Vleck. Oh, no, he has not. I've posted it on my Twitter, which is Jody Ledgerwood as well. So if you're in the area, send us a text because we need to know you're coming, because we are going to put out some snacks for people so that you don't have to like starve. 6.5 hours is a long time to go without food, and we want your brain functioning, and we want you equipped to hear what's going to be said, what Sam is going to be talking about. Trust me, you are not going to regret coming at all. So you can text us at 905-269-7653 or reach out to us at info@tfmreport.com, and we can shoot you off the details for the seminar, The Nature of Reality. It is a mind bender. You're not going to regret it. And like I said, it's free. So come. You don't have to be in a special, income bracket to come. It's free. Right. And if you really appreciate what you heard and receiving snacks throughout the day, then feel free to leave a donation that will help Sam with his gas and help us pay for snacks. Right. But other than that, I hope you are with friends and family and spending some really good quality special time with your children, and really thinking about getting yourself hooked up with a community that has CB capabilities, ham radio capabilities, and even more important, this survival antenna is incredible, and you can't buy this on Amazon.
Nope.
Amazon does not sell this.
It's custom made. Custom made, baby. All right. Well, thanks for watching. We will be back on Monday with, I think we're going to do a pretty spectacular show that we've been avoiding for a while. So
We do spectacular shows all the time. What are you talking about?
not that we've been avoiding. That's the different key.
Oh, is that the key word?
Yeah, because it's a little controversial. So so we'll be doing that on Monday. And otherwise, for those of you who are coming, we'll see you Sunday. The rest of you, we will see you on Monday. And thanks for watching. Bye, everybody.
Bye now.